In 1998, Nokia made more than half of all the mobile phones on Earth. They were worth $250 billion. Governments studied them, business schools worshipped them, and then in less than a decade, they were gone.
Nokia didn't start as a tech company. It started in 1865 in a small town in Finland as a paper mill.
Then rubber, then cable. For 100 years, Nokia made boots, tires, and industrial equipment. Nobody saw them as a technology company.
But in the 1980s, Finland deregulated its telecom industry. Nokia saw the opening, and they ran straight at it.
In 1992, they made the most important decision in their history, a dough. They sold off every other business division and went all in on mobile phones.
It was the biggest gamble in Finnish corporate history. And within years, it was paying off beyond anyone's imagination.
Nokia built factories, hired engineers, scaled production at a speed nobody in the industry had ever seen before. The phones left Finland. First Europe, then Asia, then everywhere.
By the mid-1990s, Nokia phones were everywhere. In pockets, in offices, on street corners across every continent.
The Nokia 3310, one of the best-selling consumer products in human history. Over 126 million units sold.
Their phones were famous for two things: simplicity and the fact that you could drop them off a building and they'd still work. At their peak in 2007, Nokia held 40% of the global mobile phone market. 40% of the entire world. Nokia poured billions into research. At their peak, they had more engineers than most countries had programmers. They weren't just building hardware. Nokia invested heavily in software platforms, trying to own the entire mobile ecosystem. In 2000, Nokia launched Symbian, near their mobile operating system. It was supposed to be the foundation of the smartphone era. Mobile operators across the world built their networks around Nokia. Governments partnered with them. The brand was untouchable.
By 2003, the Nokia name was on buildings, buses, sports stadiums. The brand had become part of the global landscape.
Inside Nokia, there was a culture of relentless execution. Ship fast, iterate fast, dominate the market. It worked for a while. But internal memos from as early as 2004 were already raising alarms. A touchscreen future was coming. The question was, would Nokia lead it?
Nokia's own engineers had already built touchscreen prototypes internally. The technology existed.
Nokia's structure had become too layered, too political. Ideas from the bottom couldn't reach the top fast enough.
Meanwhile, in California and in Mountain View, rivals were moving, quietly, quickly, and Nokia wasn't watching carefully enough.
We've got it! Look at this design!
It is 2006. Nokia is at the height of its power, and 1 year away from the moment that will begin its unraveling.
In 2006, Nokia shipped 347 million phones. Revenue, 41 billion euros.
Everything was working. The numbers were perfect. Nobody at the top believed anything could threaten what they had built.
January 9, 2007, San Francisco. The world was about to change. Nokia just didn't know it yet. In a darkened auditorium in San Francisco, a product was unveiled that nobody in the mobile world was ready for. Not the carrier. Leadership was afraid of cannibalizing their own products, afraid of the cost, afraid of moving too fast and breaking what was already working. Their software platform, Symbian chose, was clunky, hard to develop for, and increasingly outdated. Developers were already giving up on it. In 2008, Apple launched the App Store. Overnight, iPhone became a platform. Nokia's ecosystem couldn't compete. Then Android launched, in free, open, available to every manufacturer on Earth. The market was fragmenting. Nokia was still clinging to Symbian.
The data was presented to leadership. The threat was real. But the decisions being made were still too slow, too cautious, too political.
Multiple insiders later revealed that managers knew the problems but nobody wanted to deliver bad news upward. The culture had poisoned the truth.
Engineers gave optimistic timelines they knew were impossible. Leaders approved roadmaps they didn't believe in. The company was performing confidence it didn't have.
By 2009, investors were selling. Analysts were downgrading. The market had seen what Nokia's leadership refused to accept.
Nokia finally announced they were abandoning Symbian in 2011. It was too late. The developers, the partners, the consumers of Bray, they had already gone.
In 3 years, Nokia had gone from owning the world to fighting for survival. The collapse was now in motion.
By 2010, Nokia's market share was in freefall. By 2012, they were losing nearly €1 billion per quarter.
Nokia began laying off thousands of workers. Factories that had once run 24 hours a day went quiet. Towns built around Nokia were shaken. In cities like Salo and Oulu, Nokia had been the largest employer. When Nokia contracted, entire communities contracted with it.
In 2013, Microsoft acquired Nokia's phone division for $7.2 billion. It was supposed to be a rescue. It was not.
2 years later, Microsoft wrote off $7.6 billion, more than they paid pounds, and shut the whole division down. What if Nokia had shipped that touchscreen prototype in 2004? What if the engineers had been listened to? History has a way of asking those questions. This was not a story of bad technology. Nokia's engineers were world-class. This was a story of culture, of fear, of leaders who stopped listening. The Nokia brand was sold, licensed, shuffled between companies. The name survived even when the phones did not.
The pivot that saved the name.
But Nokia itself had not died. Quietly, in parallel, Nokia had built one of the world's largest telecom infrastructure.
Today, Nokia is one of the biggest 5G network providers on the planet. Their technology powers the networks you use every day. You just don't see the Nokia name on them. The story of Nokia isn't just a business case study. It is a warning. A story about what happens when organizations stop listening to the truth. Nokia still exists. They pivoted into telecom infrastructure. They're now one of the biggest 5G network providers on the planet.
Smart people, surrounded by warning signs, frozen by fear of failure, and the whole thing collapsed anyway. The name didn't die, just the phones. History is full of companies that saw the future clearly and still refused to act. Nokia is the most expensive reminder of why that happens.
Next hand, Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix for $50 million. Their CEO laughed them out of the room. Here is what happened next.
If stories like this hit different for you, subscribe to Deep HQ 7.